This is your host, Vaughn Sigmund, and you're listening to the Business Mechanics Show here on BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. And we're also on YouTube Live right now, so share any questions or comments while you're watching. I'd love to be able to chat with you. Let's move on to today's topic, which is, who's running you? Who is running you? Are you running things or are things running you? I'm going to talk about some easy time management tips that, although they're easy, they're really hard to put in place. There's an old saying, time flies and you're the pilot. And anybody that is growing in their career, their business, is unlikely to ever wake up one day and have less to do. That's just would be a beautiful, pretty, sexy fantasy that most overworked, stressed out, frustrated executives and managers, well, they've completely given up on that. But wait for it. Maybe there's a way of having less stress, less pressure, fewer distractions and surprises during the course of the day. It won't happen overnight. It won't be a dream come true. It's going to be a bunch of work, and it's going to take some habit changing. But I'm going to talk about some ways for you today to take control of your workload in a way that is truly the only way to manage your responsibilities to a level where the job or your responsibilities aren't running you. Like I said, it's easier said than done. How in the world do you literally start running your business and stop your business running you? Well, allow the business mechanic to show what's broken under your hood so we can order the right parts and get them installed. This isn't a 30-minute lube job. This is going to be a long-term commitment for you in order to make the changes you need, get things fixed. Understand and accept that the biggest barrier to time management, the thing that's holding you back to managing and controlling your time more than anything else, is you. You got to raise your level of self-accountability. You got to admit that it's your fault and not externalize it. And you got to commit yourself that you will take these approaches I'm going to share with you one at a time. There is no order to them. Just pick one you like that you think you can commit to and get started with it. I got to tell you, I learned a lesson not too long ago from Dr. John O'Keefe. And he taught me, he actually changed a paradigm I had, or an opinion I had, what I'd heard from other people. But Dr. John taught me that it actually takes 21 days to begin to form a habit, not ingrain a habit. A lot of people think it takes 30 days to form a habit. No, it takes 21 days to just begin to form a habit. So there's no instant gratification most times in any of this. It takes months to fully form a new habit into your daily life where it's fully part of your natural routine. And so, no instant success. I'm sorry about that. Don't get down on yourself as you're going through making some changes. Don't get down on yourself if you resort back to your old ways during the formation of these new habits or new approaches. Just recognize that you're stepping out of line. Stop, readjust, get back on track to forming a better personal relationship with your workload. And as any business coach like myself would tell you, you're going to have to get uncomfortable to begin the process of learning and changing anything in your daily habits. So that's where you must hold yourself accountable, knowing that it's going to take a while. And it's not going to come easy, and it's not going to come without some level of discomfort and strain. But I'm going to share some really great tips with you today that I know work. I've been training this for years, and I know it has changed lives, and I've got the testimonials to prove it. I'm going to share some great tips to help you begin to start the process of changing who runs your day. And for those of you who'd like to capture these tips I'm about to share, we're streaming live on YouTube. It's being recorded. I'll post the video later. I'll also post it in my here on BBM from the radio show for later listening. It's also be in my podcast or on my websites and that sort of thing. So you'll be able to come back and pick up on it if you don't have something to write some of this down with. If you'd like it all in writing, email me at vsigmund.com and I'll be happy to send over these tips to you. So let's get to tip number 1. This sounds easy, but it's really hard for a lot of people to do, and that's delegate. Just face it, you can't do everything on your own without some degree of personal sacrifice. So come on, find someone who can help you. Best place to start is with the tasks or duties you don't like doing or not very good at. If you don't like something and you're not very good at doing it, why in the hell are you doing it? Identify someone on your team to train for the task that you want to offload. Just find somebody. Think about it. Eventually, you can completely turn these responsibilities over to them. That's what delegation is. I'm going to give you a few more tips on how to delegate. But the biggest barrier very often to people making the decision to start delegating their workload is they think about it, oh my God, it's an additional task. It's more work to have to train someone. And yeah, it's going to slow you down, but just for a short period. This is a short-term investment for a long-term gain. And like Ricky Bobby said, sometimes you have to slow down to go fast. Look at it as an investment of your time. With a proper investment in the right person, you'll be running faster than ever. And if you need motivation, determine what you're paid per hour. This stops a lot of executives, business owners, managers in their track because they're salaried. They don't understand what they're being paid per hour. Then once you understand what you're being paid per hour, keep that number in your head as you're completing work during a normal day and stop and think, is what I'm doing right now worth the dollars per hour I'm being paid? Think hard about it. And I guarantee you'll find dozens of items that you will realize are not worth the rate of pay that you're paying for it. You're paying yourself for. So stop it. Identify someone else who can do it. Here are a couple of ideas of who can do it. You ready? Anyone but you. Think about it all day. Seriously, even if you're a solopreneur, you can hire a virtual assistant or an outside service to do things for you. And most of the times these things pencil in a way of profitability really quickly, especially if it's a duty or a task you're not very good at. And for sure, you have to identify employees with the talent and begin moving your workload to them, giving them the chance to get better at it. It may be even as good, if not better, than you are at it. But of course, it's got to be the right person. You just got to find that person. 2 great things come from delegation and training. You get the work off your plate, and more importantly, you're advancing someone else in their development. And they're going to love you for that. We're going to go to break. And when we come back, we're going to give you about 6 or 7 more great tips on time management and have the world stop running you. We'll be right back. All right, YouTube, what's going on today? Glad you're out there and joining me. Appreciate your presence. I'm glad to have my viewers out there. And of course, this is going to be recorded later for those of you who aren't watching it live. So, you're watching my radio show. It's on BBM Global Network. It's also posted on TuneIn's. I'll turn this into a podcast. If you ever want to listen to it in your car, it's on iTunes. It's on iHeart, and certainly TuneIn Radio. All right, so it's readily available, and I hope you are able to take some notes and gain some tasks and duties and approaches that will improve your daily lives and be able to control your work rather than your work controlling you. I have a ton of fun with this class. It is an all-day class. It is intense, but I got to tell you, it's a game changer. If you're ever interested in maybe joining one of my classes on this, I post them from time to time, run them generally on the weekends. Also, if you're someone that puts together executive retreats or that sort of thing for your company, this one's awesome. And I'm telling you, of all the things I do, I get more great feedback on teaching people how to wrangle their time and take control of with these techniques, these tips I'm talking about today, than almost anything else I teach people to do other than interviewing. That's the other great one. I'm getting ready. Perry's on the headset with me telling me I got to go back to the show. Be back with you in about 8 minutes. Thanks for joining me. Welcome back. This is your host, Vaughn Sigmund, and you're listening to the Business Mechanic Show here on BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. And we're also streaming live right now on YouTube, so join me there as well. So we're talking about who's running you, and I'm sharing with you some time management tips of how you can take better control of your time and your workload. I'm going to start this segment with a little story. And it's from one of my alternative board members, or TAB members, which is a peer advisory board group they're run across the nation, across the world. And I'm going to give you first a little background on this member. So we always do DISC profiles, which are personality profiles, with all of our members. And his profile showed that he was naturally very much a people person. He was an influencer on the I scale of the DISC, D-I-S-C. He was an influencer who absolutely loved people, had a great personality, very personable. And he's in a professional service business that requires a tremendous amount of detail. However, on his DISC profile, detail was not his primary strength, because his strength was in people, or he was a high I, and he was only moderately a S or a C, or a stability and compliance. That's your detail, routine people. And during one of his advisory board meetings, one of his first ones as a matter of fact, the board helped him realize that he spent way too much time reviewing his people's work, especially more than other people who were in the same business. In fact, he spent 3 to 4 more hours on reviewing work than others in his position. 3 to 4 more times. And however, he had justified it in his head, his own mind trash. He took a lot of pride in this, and he convinced himself that spending all this extra time created a lot more accuracy and quality, and his clients appreciated that, and he was much better than anyone else on the quality side, and anybody taking less time was not delivering the quality he was. But of course, he had no data to prove that. That was all in his head. And to wrap this up, his TAB members helped him realize that his strength was actually being a rainmaker. So from that advice, he spent more time networking, meeting prospects, going to referral sources, so he'd be able to bring a lot more business in and play to his strength. And he hired someone else to do more of the review work for him and develop processes that were faster to complete these reviews of the work that his team had to do. And by the way, that team was maybe not as skilled as him, but his skill is not what was going to impress clients. It was the output. And as long as he had people who could continue to learn and grow and get better and better at this, he was going to be fine. Plus, because the detail work was not his natural strength, it simply makes him, it took him longer to complete the work than someone else whose natural strength it was to be very detailed and process driven. He made some changes. He started delegating. He brought on some more help. And in the end, his business has flourished ever since. And he always goes back to him understanding that what was holding his business back was him. So, next tip. This is focused on managers in general, but I call it new manager catnip, because I'm going to tell you another little story here. It was a few weeks ago. I think you'll get it once I tell this story. You see this a lot either in yourself or others who are working for you, maybe your peers. A few weeks ago, I was in a client's office, a new client, and I was doing some observations as I generally do, so I understand how the people I'm about to train for the next year are operating. And I'm observing some interactions of several managers that are going to be attending, my future training programs. And one manager, brand new manager, very personable, eager to be liked and appreciated by his team. And let me tell you, man, was he eager. And so as I'm watching this stream of people coming in and out of his office, I kind of scooted myself over a little closer and made it a purpose to observe a little bit more, take some notes. And I intently watched a steady stream of these employees popping in for guidance. They were asking question after question, problem after problem. They were looking for solutions to get these problems solved or these questions answered. And on the surface, this is not so bad. At least his team is coming to him, and they see him as an expert, and his ego is being fed. And that makes him feel very special and powerful. They like him. They really, really like him. And he is sucking all this up. And again, on the surface, this looks great. They're feeding his ego with all this attention, and all this is going through his head. Oh, we need you. You're so smart and important. This is going through his frontal cortex and feels really good. And understand, he is an expert at his previous job. And that's what got him promoted. However, just like millions of managers before him, he did what it took to get promoted. His employees respected his knowledge, and I'm watching here a disaster in the making, because he's a novice at what he's doing now. He was an expert at what he used to do before he got promoted, and now he's a novice. He's a novice now because he's now managing people, and he's had no prior training on how to do that job well and become an expert. And just like the majority of executives, leaders, business owners who are out there managing people today, they are tactically or educationally highly qualified. They have many, many solid behaviors that make them very exceptional at their job. However, now they're leading people and have been trained or are being trained through one of the worst ways in the world to get trained, and that's trial and error. And is that really how you want how to manage your business, manage your single most important asset, which is your people? That, in my opinion, and it's shared by many others, is why the level of job satisfaction is so low in America. 70% of the American workforce is not engaged. And I say this on almost every show, but it's the truth. And poor leadership and management is a big part of it. We're talking about time management here, but again, it's poor leadership. 50% would leave tomorrow if they found a better deal because they don't like their manager very much. They're all trained and practiced at a tactical job. They're not being trained to be leaders. And that's what this show is about, and what I do in my business. When we come back, I'm going to finish up with 3 more tips on how to take back your time during the course of the day. We'll be right back. Minute. Hey, YouTube. Thanks again for joining me. Hopefully you got something out of this new Manager Catnip. It's a problem, and it's one that is repeated a lot. And these problem solvers, solving problems all day, really feel good about what they're doing. But in the end, man, they're really undermining themselves. So, new managers, executives, and even if you're a current manager or an executive, you've got to realize that you're doing this and how it is highly ineffective for you to be able to get through your day and work on the big stuff. We're getting ready to come in the show to the Eisenhower Box. Is one of my favorite visuals to help people understand how to visualize managing their day. I got to go back to the show. Thanks for joining me. We'll be back with you in about 8 minutes. Thanks. This is your host, Vaughn Sigmund, and you're listening to the Business Mechanics Show here on BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. And of course, we're live on YouTube right now, too. And we're talking about new manager catnip and the trap that so many managers fall into, which is solving the world's problems all day, every day. It's repeated thousands of times a day. And because they're doing the right thing in their minds of solving all these problems, they're actually terribly undermining themselves. Because these constant starts and stops for firefighting will probably make, in this case, him, had I not come along, potentially you or someone you have working for you, less and less pleasant to approach, if you know what I mean. The employees, they become dependent on your expertise, and in this case, his expertise, and they're not building their own expertise. I see it all the time. I've seen it for 40 years. And I'm finally brought into this company to help them grow. I'm identifying this. Coincidentally, there were several other managers in the organization that had the same issue. Because when you look at it, if the manager is spread too thin, these words are going to come out of their mouth at some point. It's just easier if I do it myself. Or why don't they just figure it out? Why am I the only one doing all the work around here? Have you ever said or heard that come out of your mouth or others? Have you? Now, this manager could also be called a micromanager at some point because he has to do everything himself because his people don't know how to do it for him. And so what I teach, what he should be learning, is he needs to be adopting the mindset of becoming dispensable, making himself dispensable, approaching his leadership style with one that will make his team less reliant on him for day-to-day issues and problem solving. Because when you become dispensable, your team becomes more powerful and effective, making your business that much more successful. Get it? Bad situation that his employer and many other employees had created. His employer was smart enough to bring in some help. So don't repeat this. Sure, sometimes people can figure it out and start taking their own steps, managers can, learning by mistakes, but those mistakes can be very costly. This is unfortunately not one of the issues that very often gets resolved on its own. Somebody has got to get the direction to start moving. They got to have some instructions of what they need to do to start delegating their workload. So here's how to avoid the trap. How should this manager be responding to the flow of employees into his door? Well, natural inclination was to just answer questions or solve problems. He shouldn't be doing that. What he should be doing when he's asked to solve a problem is in turn ask. Ask things like, what do you think you should do? Or how have you handled this in the past? And I got to tell you, in my experience, most of the time the employee has the answer. It may not be the perfect answer, but they have most of the solution to the problem in them already. Give them credit for that. Empower them to start making those decisions. They come to you because it's just less risky for them to have the manager give them the solution. However, great managers or leaders draw these solutions out of their direct reports and then collaborate to make it a great solution. Because the best leaders, the best managers, may even have another employee join the discussion. They stop and they figure it out, knowing that this is training time. Right now, it's taking time away from them, but in the end, they're going to be gaining a lot of time because they become dispensable to this team, and their team becomes very empowered and educated to be able to handle these problems on their own. The best managers would also ask themselves, why did this problem or situation happen in the first place, and teach his people to do the same thing. They get to the root cause, do some root cause analysis, and understand what created this problem and what can we do to make sure it doesn't occur again. And that creates a culture of continuous improvement. They would ask the team, how do we avoid this in the future and build the solution into the process? And the outcomes from all this will be managing their workload so much better because they're going to have less distractions and interruptions so they can get their real job done better and on time. They're training their team to be self-sufficient problem solvers, taking on responsibility for their own challenges. They're displaying trust to their team, which is huge for engagement. They're showing that they value their team's opinions, and their team regards that as a huge respect for them. They are building collaboration within the team. They're building teamwork framework within their team, which is much more efficient and effective. They're engaging their employees so that they're less likely to become disgruntled and quit, more engaged. They're managing their stress levels, their own stress levels, to be a more approachable supervisor. They're going to go home in a better mood every day. Their home life, your home life, will be better and with a lot more energy. One of the biggest byproducts of all this is they're developing talent for the future internal growth. They're building value with their employer because their own future career growth will be enhanced because they're growing people under them. Growing people grows your company. It gives your company greater capacity to expand and be more successful. And there's not one single company out there that has had sustained success without having a leadership and development coaching program for their managers. They just don't exist. And it's not just frontline managers who need this. They're not the only ones who are guilty of getting attracted to the catnip of being the fixer of all problems. Many business owners and CEOs and executives step into this trap a lot. Avoid this gigantic time suck and follow those steps. So step 2, write it down. Write it down and then prioritize. When we come back in a few minutes, I'm going to take you through the Eisenhower Box, which is one of my favorite things to do when I'm training time management classes, seminars. The Eisenhower Box is a great visual for people to utilize and wrap their mind around to be able to prioritize that very, very important to-do list that everybody's working off of. So we're going to go to break, and when we come back, we're covering prioritization. We'll be right back. YouTube. We're getting ready to go to the Eisenhower Box, one of my favorite visuals. If any of you guys would like a copy of the Eisenhower Box, I've got a couple versions of it. Email me, vaughn@vsigmund.com. Vaughn Sigmund, the business mechanic. Go to my website, send me a note, and I'd be more than happy to send you a copy of all these tips and the Eisenhower Box too. And the Eisenhower Box is, like I said, a fantastic visual for being able to take all the things you've got to do and put them in the right order of when they need to be done. Delegate it, don't do it, time waster, highly important, urgent, the house is on fire, long-term strategic planning goals. Where do we fit all this and when do we work on them? So I think it's a great tool and one that takes a lot of time to practice and get good at. You got to retrain your mind as to when and how and what you're doing. But when you get this down, all of a sudden this additional time to do, either go home with less hours at the end of the day, go home after 7 or 8 hours versus 10 or 12 hours or 14 hours, as many people do. But be able to go home rested, relieved, less stressed. So you'll love it. I'm getting ready to go back. Perry's in my ear. I'll talk to you in a few minutes. I'm glad you're joining the show today. Thanks for being there. This is your host, Vaughn Sigmund, and you're listening to the Business Mechanics Show here on BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. we're also streaming live on YouTube right now. Now, we're moving on to the time management tip number 2, which is writing it down and then prioritizing it. Writing it down is one thing. Many of you are carrying around a to-do list, but do you prioritize it? The best time managers do. But I hear this very, very often. I just don't have time to get things done that I need to get done. And as Tim Ferriss, the author of the 4-Hour Workweek, says, well, if you don't have time, then you don't have priorities. And here's an exercise I do in my time management workshops. First thing you do, I have the attendees take about a half hour and start listing all the things they do every day. Everything. And more importantly, how much time on average they have to spend on those tasks. So they have to create a log. And then next to that log, start writing down the amount of time they're spending on it. And you're looking at things like emails, phone calls, meetings. Don't forget interruptions, discussions, impromptu meetings, administrative tasks. You go to lunch, get that in there. If you're a smoker, you take smoke breaks, get that in there. But how much time is on your priority list set aside for working on your business, working on your business plan, working on your strategies, working on your long-time priorities, your long-term priorities? So now we're going to talk about the Eisenhower Box. Once we understand where all the things you're doing and how much time you're spending on it, you can go back to that delegation tip I just talked about. But you also need to then break these up into a priority order. And if you've never heard of the Eisenhower Box, it's taught in business schools all across the country. It's the techniques that Dwight Eisenhower, our president and general during World War II, used to manage his time. And what he did was he took a big box, drew it into 4 quadrants. And in the top left quadrant is important and urgent. In the top right box is important, not urgent. So what is important and urgent? What are some examples of that? That's a crying baby. That's a kitchen fire. The house is on fire. It may be some phone calls that come through during the course of the day. An important client or a business partner or something like that you have to take that phone call. So those are urgent and important. They come along every day. The second box, not urgent and important, well, those are things that don't have to happen today, but they have to happen. And it may be things like planning, education, exercise in some people's lives, things that are longer term, but don't necessarily have to happen today, every day, but you can plan on them. You can prioritize and you can plan on them. And then those lower 2 boxes of the quadrant that you've drawn, the bottom left, is not important but urgent, and the bottom right is not important and not urgent. So what's not important and urgent? That's people popping in your office all day. That becomes very urgent because they're standing in front of you. It's distractions that allow them to be distracted. Facebook, YouTube, as much as I love YouTube, they're designed to suck you in and keep you there. And what may be a quick view of a Facebook post or a LinkedIn post or a YouTube post may suck you in for minutes, if not longer, taking you away from your other priorities. Phone calls. There are off buttons on these things, and there are times during the day you need to use an off button. And then on the bottom right are the not important, not urgent, are our time wasters. That's the time we spent talking about the TV show last night or sports, trivia, playing games on your phone. Those are complete time wasters. Make sure all those are on your list too, because you spend time wasting time during the course of the day. Get that on your list. Now we're going to take all that list, all those tasks and duties, things you do during the course of the week. You've written them all down. Now drop them into a box. Drop them into one of those 4 quadrants. Urgent, important, do it now. Important, not urgent, do it later. Not important, but urgent, You need to reduce, eliminate, delegate. Not urgent, not important. Those are your time wasters. Get rid of them. And the goal is to move things off of the not important but urgent, so you'll have time for the important but not urgent stuff. The longer term, really important things to your personal development and growth and your company's growth and development. The not important things typically fill more time than should be allowed. And they keep you from working on your long range, very important things. The big, important long range things get moved, delayed, or sometimes dropped entirely to low importance, low quality things. And that, my friends, is why so many people are stressed out, tired, and frustrated. So figure out on this list, once you drop the ball into the boxes, what can you delegate? How much do you make again? Yeah, what's your hourly rate? How much can you delegate? How much are you willing to give up? And you're going to have to give up things in order to be great at time management. And you've got to ask yourself all day, every day, is what I'm doing right now, worth what I'm paying myself per hour to do it? So delegate. Oh, so you don't have a big team? You don't have anybody else to delegate? Have you heard of the gig economy? Hell, man, there are thousands of people out there looking for extra work and money. Websites like Fiverr can match you with someone who can do a lot of simple, easy tasks that maybe you're not very good at a very low cost. I use it all the time. They'll do it for a rate that is much lower and probably better than you can do it, and certainly cheaper than what you're paying yourself to do it. Interns are great. I employed one all summer, and this guy was great with handling my marketing efforts on social media, which is a huge time-consuming task. He paid for himself hundreds of times over and over so that I could work on doing what I enjoy doing, what I'm best at, what I make money at, which is out working with clients, working with trainees to make them better at their job. Find someone that does what you don't need to be doing for a living and hire them to do it. When we come back from our next break, we're going to talk about 17 reasons that you are getting in your own way on time management. We'll be right back. So YouTube, we're going to go through this really cool long list of things. It's actually the agenda for my time management class that we talk about. And it lists all the things that get in the way of us achieving the highly important things in our lives and work. And everybody has a to-do list. Most people have a to-do list. There's something magical about taking things out of your head and getting it onto a piece of paper. It relieves stress. If you don't have a to-do list, I highly encourage you. If you're a young person just starting out, even if you're a little further along in your career and you're not running off a to-do list and you're stressed and you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, worried about the next day, I'm telling you, this will get you extra sleep. And then if you take that list and get disciplined enough to start dropping that into the Eisenhower box, what quadrant does it fit in, so that you can time it out, spend the right time on it, the right day, put a schedule on it, man, you're going to be great. That's going to make a huge difference in your life. So we're going to teach you some ways to take back your time. Simple ways. None of these are really complex or difficult. Doesn't require you doing anything other than committing to doing it. But once you start doing it, you're going to be so glad you did, because you truly are going to be a better person at home and a better boss, much more effective. So trust me on this. I'm not 100% perfect personally on this, but let me tell you, I use most of these, remind myself of them, they work. Welcome back. This is your host, Vaughn Sigmund, and you're listening to the Business Mechanics Show here on BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. We're also streaming live on YouTube. So let's get back to our time management tips and grabbing a hold of your workload so that your workload's not running you, you're running it. Now you've got to understand you're going to start taking the steps and understanding where you need to be moving your workload to take control of your time and be more effective with it. Using the Eisenhower Box. Becoming the pilot of your time. Taking control. Let me talk about some of the obstacles that are going to get in your way from doing this. These are the obstacles that you're going to have to remove to grab that yoke back into your hand and take control. So, here's the first one. The first obstacle is you and your inability to hold yourself accountable. Hold yourself accountable to time management. Or, like I spoke about previously with the new Manager Catnip, is you're too busy with day-to-day matters. You're not tackling the large, overwhelming task because of all these daily little things that are popping into your life. You ever go home at the end of the day saying, I got nothing done today? You go in with this big to-do list of all the things you want to accomplish, and you go home at the end of the day, and you feel like you got none of those done? Yeah, it happens. It happens all the time. That's what we're talking about here. Another obstacle for you is not learning from others' experiences. Don't think that you have to reinvent the wheel. There's other people who probably figured it out. Other people who probably have a process to get it done that you can learn from. Don't have to figure it out yourself. Here's one of my biggest obstacles, and one that was my New Year's resolution that I haven't fully been engaged with all year, and that is not saying no. I'm a pleaser. I love doing things for other people. I have a tough time saying no, so I take more onto my plate at times than I should. I'm getting better and better at this. And again, this all takes time. There's no instant gratification. But there's many people like myself out there that have a tough time saying no. And you got to know when and where to use that two-letter word. Another obstacle is if you have not established uninterrupted personal time for completion of the big important stuff, that's a huge obstacle. You got to schedule and plan for that time, just like a doctor's appointment. You're not delegating enough. We've talked about that. That's a huge obstacle. Here's one that is interesting. We're going to talk about this a little bit more in a minute, is dwelling on the past. Because one experience created some kind of issue. You're afraid of doing something, you avoid doing something, you're not following what others are doing because it didn't work for you. We're going to talk about that more in a little bit. The idea of the week, constantly changing what the focus and the process of your workplace is, because you got the newest and greatest idea and you keep your people confused and frustrated all the time by doing that. Scheduling meetings at the wrong time of day. Wasting time trying to prove you're right. Not knowing what you don't know. No matter how experienced you are as an organization leader, there are going to be areas where you don't know what you don't know. And the sooner you accept that fact, the sooner you'll be able to get around this. Time management obstacles and change of direction, your effectiveness will certainly improve when you realize that you don't have to, or do you know everything. Once you're made aware of the fact you don't know something, you can start working on finding the solution through somebody else that does know it. These distractions I talked about that waste your time. And more importantly, I'm proud of you. You're listening to this show today. So you're not falling prey to this one, but you may have someone in your life or works with you that does fall into this one, and it's not working on improving yourself. The fact that you're listening to this show is a way of displaying that you're working on yourself. So good for you. Congratulations. So let's work on taking back your time. Using that to-do list, prioritizing that to-do list, putting it in the Eisenhower box. And here's the thing, here's the thing that most people leave off their to-do list, and that's prioritizing. Now, and believe me, I'm a product of the North Carolina public school system, so I really have to keep things simple for myself. And when I do my to-do list, I have a column for critical and urgent and another for critical not urgent. And if it must be done today, that goes in the critical urgent column. I work on that one first. If it's critical but not urgent and it does not have to be done today, I can work on it later. I schedule it. I put it on a day and a time it's just like a doctor's appointment I mentioned earlier, that's when I'm going to work on it. But I schedule it into my week and I protect it. And I've got to protect that stuff very, very, very carefully. So let's talk about reducing distractions as a time management issue. Don't just let people come walking into your office all day long. That's a gigantic distraction. You got to set standards, ground rules for your office. And I know it's popular to have an open door policy. It doesn't mean it has to be open all the time. The schedule rule, if the door is closed, don't knock unless the house is on fire. Don't wave at me in the window. If my door is closed, that means I'm working on important stuff, that I can't be distracted. Understanding that all emails and phone calls, this is a distraction, all emails and phone calls, they don't have to be responded to right now or even today. They don't even have to be read, for God's sakes. Only answer the phone for the calls you got to answer. And make appointments on your calendar for the big stuff, the long-range important stuff. Treat it just like a doctor's appointment. And here's a question to ask yourself in your direct reports. Of all the things I'm going to do today, which will be the most important to grow my company? Or, here's the other question to ask is, what am I doing right now? What am I doing right now? Is it getting in the way of me and the company making more money? Two good questions. And if you'll train yourself to constantly check yourself during the course of the day, ask yourself those two questions, stop yourself. This is how you change habits. Stop yourself, take the right step, move it into the right habit, delegate it, or whatever you got to do. You're going to keep getting better and better at managing your time. We're going to go to break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some other great time management tips. Thanks for being here. We'll be right back. Bless your heart. I've thought that before. You're a good man. Your host, Vaughn Sigmund, and you're listening to the Business Mechanic Show here on TuneIn Radio and BBM Global Network. Glad you're still with me, and we're going to go into a few more tips here on managing your time. So I want to go back to one I mentioned a little earlier. Don't reinvent the wheel. And this is one I have to suck up this advice every now and then because it can be a gigantic time waster. I'll give you an example. I've been working in the past 6-8 months on building my social media presence. And one of the first things you got to figure out is keywords, meta tags, hashtags, all those things. Which words work? Which should I use? How long will it take to see the results? And then it dawned on me, I can't be the first person trying to figure this stuff out. I bet there's a website or an app for that. And you know what? There's an app for this. And I think about, and this is true, I'm calling myself on myself, I wasted hours of futile work when all I had to do was download a program that would give me all the meta tags, keywords, hashtags I needed based on what I was targeting. And now I'm putting out blogs, videos, podcasts, building my brand, building my website with truly expert advice that would have taken me years, even if I'd ever truly figured it all out. I'm taking it from an expert. And it would have taken me at the pace of cold molasses that much longer for me to figure it out when somebody else has already figured it out. If you're working on something that's new to you, you're not very educated on it, you might want to think about finding someone else who is. Hire them as a service, hire them as a 1099, bring them on as an intern or whatever. But don't put a bunch of time and effort into creating something that's already been creating. And I want to go back to that other tip too, not saying no. Some managers just never learn to decline an invitation, to take on additional responsibilities, take on other people's workload. I've got all kinds of examples of that, but you end up doing things that you don't want to do, that you don't have time to do, and that can create some deep resentment that you're doing it once you've taken it on. It's your fault you took it on. And you end up wasting a bunch of mental and emotional energy that steals time and attention that could be devoted to bigger picture stuff. Again, I'm a victim of this trap. I admit it. I'm a giver, and I hate to turn people down. So move on. Don't dwell on the past. Have you ever noticed how unsuccessful or even moderately successful people waste time dwelling on the past? It's just another common time block. So we're going to wrap things up here. If you use the skills for overcoming, these skills for overcoming time management obstacles I've shared with you, you're going to be much more likely to maximize your success at work and be a better person at home. Taken together, all these skills I've shared constitute a tested and proven approach to making both your work life and your personal life more rewarding and enjoyable. You'll have more energy. That energy is going to boost your work results, and you're going to be a much better person at home. Your work-life balance will come in and be a whole lot more reasonable. You got to remember, you got to monitor it. It takes time to form these habits. Don't expect to be perfect when it comes to establishing good time management routines. Take them one at a time. Take them slowly. And let me get in this too. My high impact manager training incorporates all these techniques. For the best way to deliver productivity and time, contact me at vsigmund.com. Podcast on iTunes and iHeart, BBM Global. Twitter at VCSigmund. Thanks so much for joining me. Talk to you next week. Appreciate it. Thanks for all your encouragement. And I'll talk to you next week.